for the inshore harvesters as well as the offshore, and of course our plant workers, because Brian, I have all of these players in my district. I have large plants, I have smaller plants, a lot of inshore harvesters, of course, as well as people who work in the offshore. So I just want to reassure them that I'm taking every concern and every bit of feedback back to, of course, the Premier, Minister Elvis, Minister Elvis Lovelace, as well as the Premier. And let me tell you, we have all been having conversations around the clock in the late hours. So I'm just calling on all the players involved. Of course, the FFAW, the ASP. We haven't heard from them yet. They were supposed to speak yesterday, so I'm anxiously waiting as well to see what the ASP has to say. But ultimately, I'm calling on everybody. Let's get this figured out. The Premier and Minister Lovelace toured the province this past fall, talking to harvesters across Newfoundland and Labrador. I attended the meetings, of course, with harvesters in my district in Harbour, Portagrave. And, there certainly is a need for change in this fishery and with regards to more healthy competition. And from, what the Premier has said to me, he's open to the outside buyers. He's open to increasing capacity in licensing and as well as a complete review of the corporate concentration and, of course, foreign ownership in our Newfoundland and Labrador fishery. So I'm very passionate about the fishery. I grew up out here in Conception Bay North. We know how valuable it is, not just here in my district, but in Newfoundland and Labrador. It is one of our most, if not the most valuable renewable resource here that we have in our province. So I'm just hoping to see a resolution, and so all sides, but something fair for everyone, because the harvesters are having a hard time, as we know how they've been demonstrating. But at the same time, I'm also hearing from very concerned plant workers. My office, we have a number of visitors, a number of phone calls in the last couple of days who are also worried about how this is going to roll out. So hopefully, Brian, we can see some healthy changes made that are needed for everyone to succeed, because we've got all the ingredients to have the absolute best fishery in the world, and I believe our product is second to none. So I just wanted to put that out there and know that I'm working with my team, of course, in government as well. I'm talking to harvesters daily. So I like everyone, I want to see a resolution to this as well. So I just wanted to call in. I also want to touch on some points to our budget yesterday.
Before you go to that,
very interesting budget.
Just before you go to that, Pam, I just want to mention, I know you're not the fisheries minister, and obviously you mentioned there just that the ASP we haven't heard from. Now, they did cancel the news conference that was planned for yesterday morning, but they did issue a news release, and one of the main lines in that, I guess, I have to read the whole news release, but, they were addressing what they called, quote, the propaganda and misinformation being spread by the union and the harvesters. So, talking about behavior defined as threats, intimidation, and harassment. I wonder, I know you're not the fisheries minister, but I just wonder what you make of, we're back to this after 7 months ago. We had 7 months to get it to some kind of resolution, 7 months, and it just seemed on the outside looking in that everybody was sort of content to wait again to the 10th or 11th hour.
Absolutely. Well, it's complex. The fishery is complex, and I will not stand here and pretend to be an expert on the fishery, because I'm certainly not. But
the players know the industry. It's complex for me and you, maybe, but
I think we need a whole change in our fishery. I mean, I've been hearing that from my harvesters as well as plant workers, as people who are just been around it and lived here in our coastal communities. I think we need a big change. We need an overall change in our fishery, how this fishery operates, because every year we find ourselves here. I remember in COVID, it was contentious about what was going to happen with the fishery. And again, last year, we saw what happened last year. And I'll never forget Minister Derek Bragg, who was no longer with us today, went out and stood on the steps. I mean, the stress that was there by everyone, that the harvesters were there, of course, on the stairs of the building. The minister went out. So every year we find ourselves here. So, let's
but we shouldn't, right? We know we're going to. It's not like we don't know.
It's time for change.
Yeah, it's not like we don't know this is going to happen. I mean, the years I've covered it every year, the last 10, 15 years throughout, the fisheries broadcast even, I'll say it. But I mean, I remember, it's just cyclical. It's almost like the iron ore. It just comes around and then it busts, and then it's boom and bust, But the thing is, the difference with the fishery is that resource, as you just correctly said, we've got the ingredients, that's the word you used, and the people, and the resource.
We do.
And the know-how.
I believe us.
And yet we can't get out of our own way,
Absolutely. Everywhere we go,
And we can't get out of our own way. So it's great to hear that the government is fully behind change in the fishery. To what extent, though? Because, again, there's been a lot of words and a lot of window dressing, and here we are 7 months after a total collapse last year. lawsuits are still, the FFAW is being taken to court by the seafood producers still. I don't know how they negotiate in that atmosphere while that court action's going on, because the tie-up last year is now the subject of a court action. So, we're getting nowhere fast, and it's almost one step, dare I say one step forward. I don't even think we've had one forward, let alone two back.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I'm just calling on everyone involved, and there are many players in this industry, involved in this. Everybody's valued, everybody's needed. Let's figure it out. We have the best fishery in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we deserve to have it work properly.
Yeah.
So
control and tack, that's a whole other that would require something else. But in the meantime, the point is well made. I know you wanted to get onto the budget. Sorry.
Yep, and again, increased capacity. I know that before we leave that topic, the Premier has said that, and of course I'm advocating, and I'm going to mention, my hats off to everybody who works in this industry. I've got a small business out here, Bay Roberts Seafoods. They're working hard. They contribute to the industry. I know that they're applying, year after year for licensing. So just know that I'm advocating on your behalf, and of course I'm going to work with my team to get the best overall, results that we can have. Of course, that's being the Premier and my colleague, the Minister for Fisheries. So let's make this the best fishery. Like I said, we have the ingredients. Let's get a resolution so everybody can get out there, get to work, and be doing what they want to do, because no one wants to be in that parking lot. And that goes for everyone who's there.
Yeah, and having pushes coming to shoves and all the rest of it. So it's just...
Yeah, so let's get at it. Let's do what we do. Let's do what we need to do. Get in the room. Let's make this work. And I call it everyone involved.
It's great words. Let's see. Yeah.
And so I want to move on to something important about the budget. It is... I think, it certainly is a good balanced budget for the people of the province. I'm speaking because, of course, the first budget I was involved in was the 2016 budget, which was a very harsh budget. But I want to point out something in particular that my constituents, in particular my parents, school parents, have been advocating for, was the elimination of the 1.6-kilometer busing policy. So
Can I get a round of applause?
Well, I'm telling you, I am happy to see, and I applaud the Minister, Crystal Lynn Howell. It was something that she dug in on right away. She represents a rural district as well, and it's something that we hear from, especially in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, because we don't have the infrastructures and the sidewalks and the same setup as say our metro residents do. So I'm very happy. Of course, we worked hard to advocate to get this done, and so I'm happy to say that's finally eliminated, the 1.6 kilometer, because I know that really hits home to constituents in my district. It's something I hear about at the end of summer. That's when the calls start coming. So it was started last year, rather, as a rollout, as a pilot. But now I'm happy to say, and as the minister is very happy to talk about, she talks about it every time, the elimination of the 1.6. So I'm happy that we're making good progress. From my department perspective, of course, women and gender equality, we've got some significant investments there as well for gender to ultimately eradicate gender-based violence, some significant funding there for our stakeholders in violence prevention for Indigenous, as well as we recently signed a bilateral agreement with the federal government, which will see $13.6 million over 4 years come to stakeholders in our province, of course, with the province contributing as well as the federal government. So I just want to say, to get these points out there. And important, Brian, and I can appreciate this, as I said, coming back from the 2016 budget, going through it, there are no new taxes, no tax increases, or no new fees, obviously. And cost of living is always at the forefront for every conversation I have with colleagues within government. And, I'm happy to say we also have the lowest tax on gas in the country. And that's being maintained. I think it's 8.05 cents per litre reduction on the price of the gasoline and diesel. 50%, Brian, as well, reduction of the cost of the registration, motor vehicle registration. So that's staying in place. Of course, it's only half the price. We've introduced that, I think, the last couple of years. That's staying where it is. There's also free driver medicals for people 75 and older. Also, the continued removal of the 15% retail sales tax on home insurance, and maintaining, of course, the home heating supplement. So there are a lot of good things in here. The big investment, the largest investment ever in healthcare and in seniors and in housing. I heard my colleague Fred Hutton on earlier, as well, to get some points across about Newfoundland Labrador housing. And, of course, the investment into housing and poverty reduction. And so there's a lot of good things in here. I encourage everyone, certainly take their time to go through this budget and see how it impacts everybody's personal incomes, and everybody's pocketbook, because that's something that people care about.
Are you concerned? You mentioned everyone's pocketbook. What about government's pocketbook? I mean, are you not concerned with the elephant in the room, being the debt? And I mean, we're spending more. We've always talked about spending is out of control, and yet we're in debt. There are billions to service our debt alone. I mean, are you concerned as that as well? I guess what people want to know.
Yeah, well, I think everybody is concerned about that, and I always compare it to like a personal credit card. I mean, and as you know, I mean, an elephant in the room, what we inherited with the Muskrat Falls price tag. I mean, thank God that we have the rate mitigation as we do from Ottawa. The rate mitigation provided by the federal government that supports the people of this province, so our power rates don't double. So imagine if we didn't get that. Let's imagine if we didn't have that support, from the feds at this time, and they just shut the door, said, "No, you're on your own. It's your project." Imagine if we didn't have that. With what people are facing this day and age, with the cost of living, our gas, groceries, everything that we go to buy, whether it be supplies to even build a home, everything is sky high. But imagine if we didn't have that rate mitigation, and our Newfoundland power bills were double what they are now. Yeah. I know mine's pretty significant.
Minister, I wonder, people are probably shouting at the radio saying, is there a shelf life on attaching our debt to Muskrat Falls?
Well, until we can get to a place where we can be back in surplus, I know I will give my a lot of credit to Minister Cody, our Deputy Premier. She works tirelessly, and she has definitely taken us to a place of improvement since her time as Finance Minister. And I mean, it's again, I'm not an expert in finance as well, but I certainly appreciate the work that her team has been doing. I know how much they've been working. It's my understanding she actually slept at the Confederation building the night before last.
Took the next words right out of my mouth. What did you do? Did you hunker down too, or?
It was an early morning. I was up at 3:30. I made my way in from my district, and I was up at 3:30, and I didn't get to bed. I had an event as well. I was in there early. Of course, as you know, we brought down that budget in a way that it's never been brought down before. And then when we clued up, I had an event actually in Portagrave last night. It was an appreciation dinner for the boat lighting and the people who sponsor that wonderful event. And so I had to make my way down there last night. So it was a long day and night for me. I didn't get back home until probably about around 8:30 last night. But you know what? That's this work. My people, my constituents, I value them. And again, anybody who wants any help going through this budget to see what's in it for them, certainly call my constituency office. And I'll do everything I can to help guide. And, of course, there are programs people can avail of, whether it's for the home improvement modification. But certainly call my office. And, Brian, my constituency office number is 786-1372. Certainly call. We'll always do our best to help guide people to get them to where they need to go.
Yeah, there was certainly a long couple of days, Minister, and add to it, you just reminded me, a couple hours or each way, or an hour and a half or so each way on the highway. So never.
And, and I will say that too. You reminded me of another good point. Yes, I travel on the Veterans Memorial Highway, of course, in the Trans-Canada.
For the faint of heart.
And something that we're investing as well is speed cameras. There's going to be cameras implemented in different areas of our province throughout the Trans-Canada, and we're putting one. There will be a camera installed, to my understanding, as well on the veterans. And as you know, that's also something that's going to hopefully promote and increase safety. Because on our roadways we have to do our part. We also have to contend with moose. I tell many times in the evenings I've been driving back and forth, and I've seen my share. Yeah. It's funny because people who have moose licenses this past year, I hear a lot of my constituents say, I haven't got my moose, can't find the moose. But there's no trouble to see them on the road sometimes. Yeah,
what's the word for it? We shy away against taking them out from the highway, of course, against the law, and shouldn't even joke about that. Yes. But just on that point, sometimes it's not the moose, it's the car coming the other way. And beyond speed cameras, we should have some common sense cameras. That's just a suggestion.
Well, everybody, let's do our part to keep each other safe, and everybody else is on the roads. We share those roads with everybody, whether it be pedestrians or motorists. So let's certainly do our part to stay safe and to get to where we're going safely and to get home safely to our families at the end of the day.
Could not agree more.
Thank you for your time. And again, I put that out there. Certainly call my office. I'm here to help to do what I can. And so take good care. And again, a good morning and happy Friday to you, Brian, and to all of our listeners across Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thanks again. Minister Pam Parsons, Minister responsible for Women and Gender Equality. Thanks so much for the call, and good luck, as I